Spirit Coffee Talk. I'm Ginette and I am joined with Elyse and Lisa, and we are the mediums and channelers of Avalon Spirit. And we have so many things to talk about, and it may all come together really lovely, and I hope it does. But we want to focus on the month of February that we are currently in right now. So if you're watching this right now and you're wondering, what is going on? Because I feel the good and I feel the ick and I feel the anxiety, but I feel the power and movement all in one. It's just this big whirly blob of stuff that is accurate. And so I want to start off by saying, for those of you that are maybe joining us for the first time, this February is really impactful and powerful because first of all, we are in a 2-2-2 year, so 2022. We are now in the second month, which is a 2, and we have the alignments of the second, even today being the 11th in numerology. If you add the 1 and the 1 together, it makes 2. So today's an impactful day. The 20th is an impactful day. So is the 22nd. So that is all of those things happening in this month. We also, on tomorrow, on the 12th, we have Mars and Venus really, really close together in the night sky. So that's really impactful emphasis on relationship happening. We have
for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, right? And we have a full moon coming up on the 16th. There's a ton of stuff going on in this impactful month of, if I go back to number 2, is a creator number, a God source universe number. It is a manifesting number. So we have a high ability to manifest in this year, extra heightened ability to manifest in this month with all these different alignments means for lots of moving and changing of big pieces coming together. And so even though some of those big pieces coming together may be things we want, maybe things we have been waiting for, when they actually start moving, when you feel the momentum of that moving, it can be really unnerving. It can be triggering. It can trigger your ego. It can trigger different things, surface different things to clear. But that movement, although in many ways exciting, can be daunting. So all of that is happening in this mixed pot right now. So that's why we wanted to talk about it, because when we talk about it, we make it real, we make it known, and then it's less scary and haunting, and we can kind of see what it is. So that is the whole intro. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So how are you ladies feeling?
Yeah, well, how is it impacting you? Like, can you really feel it?
Yeah, I feel this really huge emphasis from Spirit on clarity in communication right now. And what's interesting is normally we would want clear communication, right? Like we want clarity in communication. Tell me what's going on, Spirit. Give it to me straight. No dangling carrots, as I like to say, right? Like don't just lead me in circles with dropping this and this. But sometimes when Spirit comes in with really clear communication, that clear communication is sometimes hard to deal with, hard to handle, daunting,
So intense.
heavy, intense. So, I mean, I want to recognize that too, that for some people, they may be getting these insights of clarity or these moving pieces that are clinking into place, but that is really daunting. And there is a lot of that happening within the masculine principle of energies as well right now. So again, not masculine gender. I'm not saying men. I'm saying the masculine principle of shifting.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that is, for me personally, what I felt and how I've received from Spirit is the biggest change. That is what the shift and change is. Not all of it, but like that is the center point of it, I believe, because there was so much that was driven by this shadow masculine perspective through everything, like through family systems, through belief systems, through society, through government, through education, through like everything, for so many years. And that has been changing. And when you have some things on such a large scale changing as dramatically as it is, you get growing pains. It feels very uncomfortable. It feels rocky and insecure, but it's like, that it's for the best. Like when you're doing a cleanse and you feel growth in day 2, day 3, but you know what's going on. You know that a change is occurring by shifting the things that were out of balance. You know what I mean? And I feel like, so we're doing it on an individual basis, but it's really this huge collective occurrence right now, is this shift and change out of this shadow masculine system.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're changing a whole system,
That's a big deal.
it's a big deal.
And I want to say one more thing on that point, and I'm not trying to cut you off, Elyse, because I haven't even given you a chance yet.
Yeah.
But I want to say one more thing is the there's a lot of energy on the ground too within the Galactic Federation of Light right now in the Earth Alliance. So there is a lot of communication coming in from the Pleiadian Council. For those of you that aren't familiar,
So much from the Pleiadians. Yeah.
they are an ascended. They're ascended beings from the Pleiadian star system, and they're really a part of a bigger group that is helping humanity ascend right now. That being said, the Pleiadians are coming in with a lot of communication for people, insights, guidance, dream state, all of that to help these changes, as well as the Arcturians are really helping to make the actual changes happening. Like they're really on the ground helping to clunk these things into place. So a lot of these understandings that are coming through right now are from that Earth Alliance Council that is like, hey guys, we're in here changing and manifesting with the manifestations that you are making and intending and wishing right now. So like they're basically waiting at the door saying, what's next? In a sense, right? Like not just blindly, but
yeah. And, I felt too like I've been like, it's so interesting. I love this. It was on, I think it was like 2 days ago. I was like, oh my goodness, like my guides, my main guide is a Pleiadian being, Marcus, and he's blue and he looks like a Pleiadian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he came in and he was telling me that there's so much information that has been left for us to almost discover from like the Lemurians, and the like all of that was little pieces that was designed to come back and guide us right now. And I was like, you're kidding, like it, but when you get that like straight up message, you're like, wow, okay, well now that's encouragement to listen up, right? And to trust that things are starting to come up. And I think you were saying that too, so many like synchronicities over and over and over. It's like even people who are like, what are you talking about, Pleiadians and like all that, but they are like, oh, all these kind of coincidences or these synchronicities or these answers that are coming in different ways. It's almost like they're little gems that have been left for us to be able to start clicking things into pieces. And that is like when Pleiadians come in for a little extra help, like those are the kind of things that we're talking about, helping us here on our dense earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How about you, Elyse?
So it's funny. I was like sitting here thinking, I'm like, I feel like I've just like the last couple of weeks, I just sit here like completely spaced out. But it's funny because I was feeling pretty good this morning. Like we always kind of check in quickly before we start recording. And it was like, oh, how are you? Oh, good, you know, whatever. And as we're sitting here talking, it's like I just feel the lights shutting off. Like I feel like same thing that happened last week where I just felt like I wanted to be like, fall asleep. So I apologize. I feel like I look dope. Like I feel like I can barely keep my eyes open. Like, like open up.
Extra hard.
Yeah. So yeah, I some of the things that have just been coming up for me, I really, when we were talking about kind of the masculine, and as we've shared before, but you know, for those, if it's your first time, as Ginette mentioned, when we're talking about the masculine, we're not talking about like masculine bodies. We're talking about, you know, everybody has masculine and feminine within them. And there's all of the things that we're seeing in society in the last few years really come from when we talk about masculine energy, you talk about like action, doing, moving forward. And that's important, right? We have to have that in order to do things. Otherwise we would just never get anything done. So it's a good energy and it's an important energy, but where it starts to get shadowy and it can get it can turn into kind of shadow masculine in a lot of different ways. But where it starts to turn shadowy is when we're talking about like profit over people's well-being, when we're talking about, you know, discrimination against large groups of people, or I mean, gosh, there's a million different things that we could look at when we're talking about that, right? And so it's the feeling that I was getting as you two were talking about the masculine is that there is this, when we look at all the ways that society is trying to change, it's often focused in that realm. But with that is going to come a lot of pushback, because that is a set system that has worked for a long time, but only for a small amount of people. And so, as you were saying, Lisa, like when you're in that shift point, it's really uncomfortable. And we've talked, I think, before I feel like it was in the summertime, where we get to these points, and it seems like it's kind of been this cycle in the last few years, where we get to these points where it's like everything just feels out of sorts, but it's because there's been so much breakdown that's happened that it almost feels worse before it gets better. And then it's like
always worse before it gets
better. And then we click collectively into a new like structure, and then it's like, oh, okay, this feels a little bit better. But because there's so many things that as a planet we're having to look at and be like, oh, that's not working anymore. Like that is more shadow, you know, not heart, love, people based. It's about money and profits and these things that just convolute everything. It'll come up again.
2024, like those 4 years is the shakedown, the turnaround, the like breakdown of what was driving this shadow masculine perspective. And it was driving Earth into the ground, but like off its axis. It was going to throw it off its axis. Earth was not going to be able to survive, right? Because it was not in balance. We were losing it.
Yeah. So we're course correcting, but in that course correction, it's like a whole bunch of discomfort, and then we can kind of settle into a new way of being, and then a whole bunch of discomfort, and then settle into a new way of being. So I guess all to say, I think what I'm getting at is that I think we're realizing that like this cycle is probably going to continue for a while, because everybody is exhausted, right? We're tired.
Yeah.
It's like,
but look at what people are learning through this, right? Totally. Like people are being broken down to the point where they can't do the anxiety anymore. They cannot handle the lack of social or the, you know, the fighting or the division. They've had enough. And so what are they doing? They're taking a step back and they're reevaluating their boundaries, what their personal drive is, what actually fires them up. What do they want? What do you want around you? What do you want around you? What is driving you? Because everything that was driving before has crumbled. And I don't say like everything, but like a lot of stuff, even right down to the point where we've had to evaluate our whole like money system, income, job, quality of life, like what is important, because everything has been thrown off balance, right? And like you said, it gets messy. It's bad before it gets good. But we're past the point, and maybe this will be a light for people because this is coming in super strong, is that we are past the point now of being like, okay, we're going to shake it up because it's been shook. You know what I mean? And so like we're further down the tunnel than we are giving ourselves credit for, because now it's not a long shot to be able to identify what it is that no longer serves us. And we're past the point. Like we know we can reevaluate what's actually the gas behind the driving point, you know, like what is it? So we're already starting to restructure our lives based upon our own personal knowings. And what's getting confusing is that we're doing it in different levels, right? We're doing it in different timing, not better or worse, but some people have gone through the kind of levels before others. But it's like, it's kind of like a dominoes effect. So some people have gone through way more shakeup, and they're in their like rehabilitation stage, right? Where some people are experiencing the beginning of the shakeup, right? But we're further along as a society or as a collective than we think, because it looks really nasty from the outside. They're like, trust us, we're further along than you think. There's more light. There's more light than you think there is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And you know, I've been noticing that too in sessions and conversations and stuff like that is the amount of awareness that people have now to figure out what the issue is. They still have to deal with it or mend it or heal it or grow or whatever, but they can figure it out or pinpoint. That's a better word. They can pinpoint the trigger piece much faster now, and that speaks to our overall level of awareness.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the Pleiadian Council that are with us already, they're like, this is Ascension.
Totally.
This is Ascension. And again, because we're doing 100 years worth of growth in a period of 4 years, we have a greater ability to see that rate of ascension. And so that's why they're like, this is Ascension. This is exactly it. It's just compressed right now.
Doesn't that feel amazing?
Yeah. And so it's like, we need to, I think it's really important that we celebrate those times when we can pinpoint something, or celebrate the times when Spirit communicates something very clearly with us, right? Instead of being overwhelmed by it, celebrate the fact that it came in clarity. Yeah. And then deal with it accordingly. But like, the things that are different, when you notice they're different, recognize it, celebrate it, and then deal with it. But like, this is your leveling up. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, we're all leveling up in some form. So
have either of you noticed?
Awesome. Sorry.
Have either of you noticed more? So Ginette, earlier you were talking about just kind of clear communication coming through and really specific stuff. Have either of you noticed higher activity at night than normal, or like for your normal?
I have noticed a little bit. I've noticed a higher energy. So less like activity, but a higher energy that actually pops me out of sleep more often, with like this buzz, or more spirits, more, I mean, yeah, I guess, yes. Yeah. Not in the traditional sense of what I would think.
Yeah. I just mean, because, so where I was going with that question was that I'm noticing, like, sometimes during the day, you know, I'll sit down to kind of intentionally tune in for myself and ask questions, or like collectively what's going on, or, you know, whatever. And I don't get a lot. It'll just kind of be like a, you know, an image here and there, kind of quiet. And then I'll go to bed and I'll be laying in bed and it's like information, flash of thing. And I'm just laying there thinking like, why, where is this coming from? Why at night? And they're not really giving me a whole lot of explanation. It's just, I'm getting all these things right before sleep, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night and something will have woken me up. Or, you know, like I was having this reoccurring thing where I kept waking up around 3 a.m. and thinking somebody was standing at the end of the bed. But I was in this weird state where I couldn't be like, hey, who's there? I just thought it was, I didn't know what it was. And then I just kind of passed back out and went to sleep. So I'm just noticing, and the feeling that I'm getting is that part of that is because there is so much happening during the day for us, it's almost too much to carry it in the energy of the daytime. So when we're at sleep, or like when we're about to sleep, we're calmer because we're going to bed, ideally. But also it's like the energy has settled a little bit. And so then we can get more flashes of things. And it's more the clear, like kind of unasked questions that is coming in at night. Whereas like I'll sit down and do a reading and it's no problem. But yeah, those kind of like higher level things.
It's for yourself.
Yeah. Or even just like random, like kind of collective understandings, or like just random things that'll come in. And it's like, I just noticed it be a lot more frequent at night and kind of unintentionally.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I noticed that too, actually, last week. I can't remember if I told you guys or not, but last week, I laid down to go to bed, and suddenly it was like whole movie scene of all this stuff going on in my visions. And so like back in the day that would rattle me, but now I'm just kind of like, oh, what's going on? But there was a huge energetic battle happening in the fourth dimension between Arcturians and other kind of darker energies, forces and such. And it was being brought to my awareness, like, just, hey, FYI, so you know, this is happening in fourth dimension. You may feel the ripples of that energy in third dimension. And you're exactly right, Elyse, and I completely forgot about it, which is funny, but it was exactly that. It was laying down at night, no big deal, ready to go to bed, and then like, boom, 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 seeing the things and getting all the clarity. And I think you're right, because 3D life right now in the day is so active. It's keeping us really busy because of the clicking and shifting and changes that are like in motion. that nighttime can be quite busy. Yeah, interesting point. How about you, for you, Lisa? What have you been noticing?
I've been feeling it physically in my body.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know what that's about, because as I'm talking, I'm like, no, probably not. I usually like shut everything down so that I can actually sleep. And only if it's like I need to be woken up with a message, then do that kind of thing. But my sleeps have been not great for sure. But like, oh my gosh, the physical symptoms, like I feel nauseous all the time, all the time. And it's like I can feel calm and good. My readings are like really clear, but then, and that's when I always feel my best. Like I go into that frequency and it's just the best. And then I come out and back into 3D world, and then instantly again I'm like, oh, I don't know if it's Ascension symptoms. What do you get on that? What do you think?
I think so. I think a lot of it is the change. They're calling it chaos energy, but I don't necessarily mean chaos bad. I just mean lots of moving parts, right? Like something can be chaos, but it's not necessarily bad. It's just many moving parts. I guess you like a whole bunch of like insects buzzing in different directions. That's not a bad thing. It's just many moving parts.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of that. And here's the other thing that I'm being reminded that I got this morning too, was that the reason why it's important that we talk about this is that this is going to continue for this month, right? This is a continuing theme
Awesome.
for this month. Yeah, it's going to continue to grow. And they showed it to me earlier, kind of like balloons. Like, you know, when someone blows up a balloon and they're blowing it and you're like, yeah, that looks full. And they keep blowing it and you're like, yeah, that's full. Like you're good. And they keep blowing it and you're like, okay, that's really good. Like it's getting to the point where like it's going to pop or something. That's going to be the feelings of the energy right now. But what we need to do is recognize that things external to us may pop, like collective things may shift and change, but we don't have to fear ourselves in that. We don't have to fear our experience in it. But the energy is going to feel like that continued expansion for the rest of this month because of the energy of this month. Lots of intents being set, lots of manifestation.
Get outside. Get outside. That's a great way to help regulate things. They're just like, go outside, find the sunshine or the trees or whatever you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a good one.
You have Light Council with you right now. Are they wanting to say anything? I feel like you've got a little.
No, I feel them coming through. But just with like insights, not like a channeled vibe. The biggest thing is just like recognizing that this is ascension. Like we are experiencing ascension right now, and to be consciously aware of that and witness to it versus caught up in it.
I love that. I love that, because I was going to say before too, this is ascension. I think that's really good for people to kind of understand, because if you say, oh, ascension symptoms or something like that, or that's your like even being pulled up into a higher vibration, or you're upgrading, right? I think a lot of times people will be like, what do you mean? Right? And so you gave a really good example of this is ascension when you can identify right away the things that are right in front of you versus it being so out of your awareness. Yeah. So, and then like you said, instead of like then jumping into the soup of it, just be aware, just be like, oh, this is interesting. I feel extraordinarily nauseous and anxious today. My system must be doing a lot of stuff. Like it must, I understand that this is an energetic thing and I'm totally realizing it. And then that actually takes off the pressure and the resistance so much that the feelings of it aren't so intense.
Yeah. Even the physical sensation, Lisa, after you mentioned that, I was like, yeah, yesterday, I think, Ginette, you and I were talking, and I said, I feel like I'm getting motion sickness. Like that's kind of like when I tune into energy, I feel like I have motion sickness. And so I was just thinking about, as you were talking about the kind of chaos energy and there's all these moving pieces, what causes motion sickness? Like from a real physical perspective, it's your body, your mind, your brain, your eyes, your ears, your physical sensations, feeling you moving through space and time, but not being able to, like, your brain not being able to comprehend that. And for me, like, if I'm in a car, I do get motion sickness, especially if there's like things whizzing past the window. Like I have to look forward. I can't be caught up by all the things around. Otherwise I will vomit in the car. That is what's happening right now energetically. It's like we're whizzing through all these things and there's things flying by the window and you're like, oh boy. And you're starting to feel that.
I feel it right now.
Yeah, me too. So anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
Got that conversation.
Yeah, that's very true. And what a great awareness to have, right? Like we were saying, like you can pinpoint the awareness and then you can choose to do what you want to do with it. So like what a great awareness to recognize the intensity, but also the understanding of what's happening right now, and then doing the things, using the tools to try and ground yourself, like being in nature, doing whatever you need, setting boundaries when you need, going out with people when you need, like
having a glass of water.
Yeah,
water.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So I pulled cards from my guides. They said they'll kind of send through the overall message, and it's so funny how it all comes together. It's like healthy boundaries. Okay, so the cat, in like, even if you don't like cats are a beautiful reminder of healthy boundaries, because cats are unapologetic about the boundaries they require, and they're independent. So they have a lot of affection and love, and you can have that, but like know your independence and setting your healthy boundaries. And that's all about like coming into ourselves as we know it. And then joy. And hey, we can be ascending, we can be, having all this stuff, but like, what is the number one thing to just like bring you right up, your frequency right up, is don't forget about joy. Yeah. Don't take life too seriously. Really, we're here to be human, as hard as it can be sometimes, and that involves all the senses, all the feelings, and like joy is one of the easiest, fastest, greatest ways to pull your energy up. So like, what brings you joy? Being outside, laughing, playing games, being with kids, music, like that joyous. Don't forget about joy. And then the High Priestess I pulled as the card that, for this, it indicates is like that wholeness of self, coming back to that wholeness of self energy. So like making your boundaries, having that independence, knowing who you are, bringing in the laughter, the joy. And then the High Priestess is just about like that, coming back into your wholeness energy, like being firm in who you are through this, knowing who you are.
I love that. You know what? And that's a similar message to the card reading I did this morning on my YouTube, was the Queen card, which is quite similar to the High Priestess, and of like, be you. Like, be your full you and work from there. Like, don't be looking every which way of how to, like, be you first and then put on the layers from there. So I love that synchronicity.
Totally. Because that's okay. They reminded me, this is really important. When you're saying be you, that's part of this. That is why there was such a breakdown of the structures, because how we were living wasn't authentic to who we are. It was based upon a belief system made in a system that wasn't authentic to ourselves. We were taking the beliefs of the high, in all different ways, right? And so what this is helping us do is break down all of a sudden these belief systems that we might hold that they're not even ours, right? And so it's like, that's what Ascension is, coming back into who you are. And to know that is to peel away the pieces of self that you wore that weren't yours.
Totally.
So it's like starting to like take the layers off, because it's weighing you down, because it's not yours. And so coming into yourself might feel a bit uncomfortable, because you don't know, like, I don't know, but the Ascension is you will know more and more. It will become more and more comfortable for you to wear your own shoes, right?
Yeah, I love that. That's embodiment right there, right? And didn't we say 2022 is so about embodiment, and knowing what that is and the process of doing it? So
I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, I think that just like wraps it up.
Yeah, it's the perfect place.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank thank you guys for meeting today, and thank you everybody for joining us. If you enjoyed this and this is your first time, please do subscribe, share, like. If someone you think would really benefit from these understandings, then please do share it with them. And as well, check us out on Avalon Spirit, the Facebook group. We are on there regularly, answering questions, posting insights, all kinds of stuff. And for everything else, check out avalonspirit.com. So with that, we will see you guys all next week.
Yep. Bye.